Hey everybody, Peach here, and today we're doing a head-to-head comparison between the RITFIT M1 version 2.0 and the Mikolo M4. Now, despite them costing the same amount, one is clearly better than the other, and I won't bury the lead here. The RITFIT M1 version 2.0 is leaps and bounds better than the Mikolo M4, and we are going to compare each feature of the racks to see how I arrived at what I think is an obvious conclusion. All right, one more thing before we get started. I just wanted to disclose that I am not being paid by RITFIT or Mikolo to make this video. I'd also like to disclose that I actually have a financial incentive to recommend the Mikolo over the RITFIT because their affiliate commission rate is much higher than RITFIT, okay? Mikolo's commission rate is actually the highest I have ever seen in this space, okay? So you would think I'd want to recommend that. Well, I can't. It sucks. In fact, I resigned as their affiliate before my last review of their product even went out, okay? I have no interest in ever working with them again. It sucks that bad. All right, so for our first category, we're going to cover the uprights. This is where you're going to be benching and squatting. And as I go through each category, I'm not going to go over everything. Okay, I'm only going to go over the main things that I think are the main differentiators. So if you have more questions, just drop them down in the comments below. Okay, so for those uprights, we have spotter arms and J-cups that are supplied with both products. Okay, now the RITFIT J-cups, they're rated for 575 pounds, same thing with the spotter arms. However, Mikolo, with almost identical products here, they're claiming that these are rated for 1,000 pounds on the J-cups and 700 pounds on the spotter arms. Now, even if I believe that, I still wouldn't go that heavy because I don't trust that that's 14 gauge steel. Both companies claim that their front uprights are 14 gauge steel, okay? I even reached out to Mikolo via email to confirm this. So, let's find out, okay? So I have my little tool here, and we can measure that. And I already did, of course. And yes, RITFIT's measuring at 14 gauge. And a magnet sticks to it. I have no reason not to believe that it's not steel. Over here on the Mikolo, however, it's measuring at only about 17 gauge, okay? Not the 14 gauge they claim, and a magnet will not stick to it. So I don't know if it's steel or not. It might be aluminum. I have no idea. But I do know there's no way in hell I would trust these front uprights when I'm benching heavy. So the award for this category definitely goes to RITFIT, which is truly 14 gauge steel. All right, now let's talk about the Smith machine. So to start off, let's talk about how high you can set it. This is important because in order to load the functional trainer's trolley back here, you're going to be going in and out of this area. And if it's too low, you're going to be ducking more and you're going to be hitting your head on the barbell as you enter and exit that area. You also are going to want to be able to access all your attachments in the rear. So this is why that's important. Now, the RITFIT does measure at 67¼ inches from the ground. Okay, now over here on the Mikolo, it's much lower. It's only 62½. So you're more likely to bang your head when you're coming and going out of that area over here on the Mikolo. All right, now let's take a closer look at the Smith machine. So over here in the RITFIT model, we have a nice chrome finish with decent passive knurling, and it's smooth as hell. And more importantly, if my hands are not completely centered on the barbell, it still performs exceptionally well. I'll put my hands way over here. You see this? One-handed, way over here. Okay, now let's take a look at the Mikolo. Now, I have 25 pounds here, 25 pounds here, and over here on the Mikolo, same amount of weight. Let's see how this performs. And oh, by the way, the finish here, instead of chrome, you get a rough cast iron pan looking barbell with very crappy knurling. It's almost non-existent. But let's take a look at how smooth it is. Okay. It's much louder. It's like grinding, and I don't think you can see this on video, but it's really flexing. These guide rods are flexing, so it's oscillating back and forth, and it's not smooth whatsoever. It feels awful. And more importantly, my hands were centered on the barbell. Watch what happens if they're not. Just slide this over a couple inches. It's majorly kinking. Now let's see if I can just do this, right? I can't even pull it up. Okay, it's completely kinked. This side's going up, this side's locked. It won't move at all. And just look at how much this thing rattles. It's shaking like a leaf. This thing is garbage. All right, now let's talk about the functional trainer. So I will give credit where credit's due. The Mikolo functional trainer does not suck, okay? It's just not as good as the RITFIT one. Let's break it down. So over here, we do have a handle right here, and it's crooked. They're both crooked. So cheap, crooked metal handle with a cheap plastic pop pin and a cheap plastic lining, which results in friction when you're trying to adjust. Also, I just don't trust this pop pin. Number one, it can become unscrewed and just fall right off. And the pop pin, if it's not really locked in and you're pulling a ton of weight, this thing could go flying up on you and you could get injured, okay? Over here, on the other hand, there's no handle, but you don't need one. So I can still do this one-handed. It's got a giant knob, and you can tighten or loosen it to really lock it into place so you don't have that safety concern. Okay? And instead of a cheap plastic lining, it's got 4 plastic rollers. So it's a bit easier to adjust up and down. And the numbering on the uprights makes it easier to set them at the same height. Other things to consider are things like the aluminum pulleys over here with the RITFIT versus the plastic pulleys over here on the Mikolo. Okay? Also, the cable travel length is longer on the RITFIT model than the Mikolo. And look at these handles. We have metal knurled handles with thick fabric as opposed to cheap plastic handles with very thin fabric over here on the Mikolo. So, in summation, RITFIT definitely wins this round too. All right, now let's talk about the pull-up bars. So for me, it's kind of a tie between the two. Okay, I'm not gonna knock one and say one's better than the other. My personal preference is the RITFIT grips though, because of one reason. Okay, the Mikolo does have these extra neutral grips right here. And where they join happens to be the exact spot where I would be doing a pronated grip pull-up. So they're in the way for me. So because of that, I have to go wider or more narrow than I normally would. So for me, they're in the way and I don't like that. But for you, you might like this style better. So we're calling that one a tie. All right, now let's do a real quick breakdown of all the free attachments that you get with both products, okay? Starting with the dip bars. Mikolos are better because you have to go a bit too wide with the RITFIT ones. The T-bar row handle, Mikolos is slightly better quality. Barbell clips, RITFITs have that rubber grip, so they're better. J-cups, tie, they're almost identical. Spotter arms, tie, same length, same level of quality. The rope attachment, Mikolo throws one in for free. With RITFIT, you can buy them separately, or they come in different packages, but you don't get one for free with the basic package. So Mikolo wins that. Foot bar, okay, by the looks of it, the Mikolo wins, but here's the deal, it's not detachable, and the RITFIT one is, and I would rather have it be detachable to move it from one side to the other quickly. So RITFIT gets that point. Landmine, slight edge to Mikolo since it's a bit beefier and it can handle Olympic bars and 1-inch bars. Either one will get the job done, but I'm gonna give the edge to Mikolo. The band pegs, Mikolos are a little bit nicer. Straight bar, Mikolos is a little bit nicer. Lat pull down, okay, the Mikolo has the ability to connect 2 cables together or just use one, so I'm gonna give the point to them. And as far as the stirrup handles, RITFIT clearly wins that. Plastic handles are definitely not as good as metal knurled handles. So overall, Mikolo wins this round, but at the end of the day, none of the attachments from either company are particularly excellent or top shelf, but they are all good enough to get you started. All right, now let's talk about accessory storage. So over here in the Mikolo, you have 4 kind of rusty hooks, and that's all you get. Over here in the RITFIT, you get 4 non-rusty hooks, but you also get this crossbar, which you can put your dip bars and your J-hooks and your spotter arms and all those things when they're not in use. Over here with the Mikolo, you just gotta, I don't know, set them on the ground or something. So RITFIT definitely wins the accessory storage round. All right, now let's talk about plate storage. So ideally, you're gonna wanna store your plates on the sides of the rack, which the Mikolo offers, okay? With the RITFIT, you have to store them on the rear of the rack. The reason you wanna do that is so you can slide the rack as close to the wall as possible to save room, right? If you have them on the back of the rack, you gotta leave a gap so you can load and unload those plates. But here's the deal, the Mikolo execution of this is abysmal. So here I have a 25-pound iron plate. And here I have a 450 millimeter plate on the trolley for the functional trainer. And that 450 millimeters, if you don't know, that's going to be the size of your bumper plates, and it's also the size of most iron 45-pound plates. So as you can see, there's a conflict here, right? They hit each other. So this weight horn can actually only handle 10-pound plates or less. Okay. Also, the weight horns are cheap plastic with a really bad cap. It's not going to hold up, and they're completely straight. Okay. They're not canted upwards. So the plates could theoretically slide right off there. Whereas with the RITFIT, the weight horns are much higher quality with a nice rounded edge on the end, and they are canted upwards to ever prevent slipping off of those weight horns and causing damage or injury. So, you know, while I would like to have them on the sides, I see why RITFIT put them on the rear. So there's no interference with the trolley. So I got to give the point here to RITFIT. All right, now let's talk about barbell storage. So with the RITFIT model, you can store 3 barbells with a nice bracket that's centered on the rear of the rack. With the Mikolo, you have 2 barbells that can be stored. One here and one here. It's kind of a really thin, cheap little cup, basically. It's going to be metal on metal. You're more likely to scratch up your barbell with this design because you got to stick it in like this. And I mean, it rattles around a lot, and it wouldn't take much for me to just completely bend or rip that metal because I can see it flexing just by gently touching it. So definitely the point goes to RITFIT here. 3 is better than 2, and this is just going to scratch the hell out of your barbell. Now let's talk about just overall component spacing, right? So I just showed you that there's an issue with the trolley and the weight horns on the Mikolo. Well, obviously there's no issue here. There's no issue here with 450 millimeter plates, but also I want to show you on the Smith machine and the trolley here, there's no interference either with 450 millimeter plates. Okay, there's a nice gap here so that they don't hit each other. Well, guess what? On the Mikolo, that's not true. You're going to have to unrack one to use the other. Let me show you. All right, now over here on the Mikolo, we have 450 millimeter plates on the Smith and on the functional trainer trolley. And as you can see, there's overlap. You won't be able to use the Smith machine if you have any plates here, and vice versa. You're going to have to unrack one to use the other, which will lead to longer setup times and an inefficient workout. This is a huge design oversight. Very annoying. So I'm giving the point again to RITFIT. All right, last category. Now this is not an important category, but it's still one worth mentioning. The logo plate. So with RITFIT, you're getting a stainless steel logo plate. And you can listen. You see it? It doesn't have this, thin, cheap metal sound. It's because it's not, okay? It's sturdy. Now let's go take a look at the Mikolo. All right, so for the Mikolo logo plate, instead of 1 logo plate, you're gonna get 2, okay? 1 on each side. It's thin sheet metal, okay? But my major issue is with this cringy slogan, Mikolo, your home gym master. I'm your master. Who came up with that, okay? Very cringe. No, Mikolo, you're not my master. I'm giving the point to RITFIT. All right, so let's review that final scorecard. Now, I'm not weighting any of the categories here, but obviously the Smith machine's more important than the logo plate. And if I did provide a weight to the categories, it would not change the outcome. And the outcome is that the RITFIT M1 version 2.0 is the superior product. Now, if you've already bought the Mikolo M4 and you're happy with your purchase, hey, ignorance is bliss. Great. But if you've been eyeing either option, hopefully this video has narrowed it down for you. Obviously, go with the RITFIT M1 version 2.0 and avoid the Mikolo M4. All right, the RITFIT M1 version 2.0 versus the Mikolo M4. Again, same price, but one's better than the other. Now, if I went too harsh or went too easy on either product, please let me know down in the comments below. And for all you die-hard Mikolo fans out there, go ahead and light me up and tell me how wrong I am. I want all the smoke. All right, now, if this video did help you either way, the shopping links to both products are located down in the video description below. And if you're gonna make that purchase, please consider making that purchase via those shopping links down below. When you do, I do get paid a small commission, which helps support the channel and helps me to continue helping out my brothers and sisters in the home gym community with these videos. All right, that does it for this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. So, be sure to subscribe to the channel to be alerted the moment the next episode drops.